Hey, welcome to the Elle Rush Show, where we explore ways to get healthy, wealthy, and wise. With a combination of guest interviews and solo episodes, I hope you will be inspired and motivated to become the best of whatever you are. I'm Elle Russ, #1 best-selling author and subject expert with over a decade of helping thousands of people across the globe. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about free guides, masterclasses, online courses, and more. Enjoy the show. Welcome back. Okay, I have to talk about Alex Honnold. Have to talk about him? I kind of love to hate him, and I know he's sort of the man everyone else loves to hate, and I don't mean that in an evil way. We'll get into it. If you're just rolling up here and you're like, who's Alex Honnold? Why are you talking about it? Well, first of all, I will say analyzing his brain and his life has a lot to do with health and also confidence. But what I'm not going to really talk about today is him ripping up a 101-story skyscraper in Taipei, which is why you might have heard his name. That's how he recently became very famous. But he was originally made quite famous from a documentary years ago called Free Solo. If you have not seen that documentary film, I highly suggest you do, because a lot of my commentary today is sort of about the dynamics in that film. You can still gain a lot from listening to this and not seeing it, but if you have not seen Free Solo, it is an award-winning documentary. It's fascinating, and it was incredibly conflicting and polarizing. People were running to the internet to be like, oh my God, this fucking guy. So we're going to talk about this guy. And I'll start off by saying, I really respect this guy. Alex Honnold is worthy of respect. He's an amazing athlete. He's incredible. But I would also absolutely hate hanging out with this guy in real life. And this episode is not meant to be a takedown of him. And it's definitely not a diagnosis, because I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of the characteristics and qualities of Alex completely align with things that are also on the spectrum. And every armchair psychologist on Reddit is going to say that he's autistic, but he has not been diagnosed. He's not said anything about it. And you know what? It actually doesn't even matter. It's not for me to say. It's just he is who he is, and we're going to talk about that. This episode, we're going to explore a very uncomfortable truth that comes up, because sometimes the traits that make someone totally extraordinary also make them incredibly unappealing, but depending on what you value. And that's sort of the conundrum with him. But first, I want to get into what neuroscientists and experts have found when they looked at Alex Honnold's brain. And this matters to the entire discussion, so you must know this about him. So neuroscientists, when they were studying Alex, and this was all shown and discussed in the film Free Solo, they focused on his amygdala. That's the part of the brain responsible for detecting fear and your response to threats and all of that. Now, in most people, the amygdala lights up really fast, really hard. So, if you see danger, it could be a lion, it could be violence, it could be like heights. It doesn't matter what the danger is that is perceived, that amygdala kicks off the fight or flight response. And what that does is flood your body with cortisol and adrenaline so that you react quickly. But not in Alex's case. He has a different brain. His amygdala response was incredibly muted. So what they did is they showed Alex images and scenarios that normally spike fear in the brain in almost everyone else, like they'll spike some activity. And he was shown these images and scenarios, and his brain barely reacted. And I don't mean in a trained, calm, mind over matter way. I mean, he's got low reactivity at a baseline. And so what that means is that Alex doesn't get the same cortisol surge that most people get. His body isn't hit with panic easily at all. His nervous system stays pretty damn quiet under really extreme conditions. And so because of that, his logic, his motor skills, they all stay intact, because he's not getting hijacked by fear, cortisol, adrenaline, all that rush. So when he's in a situation or in a climbing situation, his brain isn't screaming like, "Oh my god, you're gonna die." It's really just saying to him, like, "Proceed as rehearsed." To him, all of these are predictable, factual variables in some way. And that's not lack of fear or confidence in a motivational poster sense, that's just literally his biology. Now, let's just get to people can confuse this because look, the same like low trigger system that makes this guy an exceptional climber also means less emotional urgency, less physiological arousal, less like internal pushes for him to react or to engage emotionally. So, in other words, like the reason he doesn't panic at 3,000 feet is also related to the reason he doesn't instinctively respond to emotional intensity in real life relationships. And the relationship between Alex and his then girlfriend, now wife, in the movie Free Solo is what had people rushing to the internet to be like, I want to kill this guy. And I'll talk about that in detail. And I will also share with you what they have both said publicly about his personality. So, this low cortisol activation that he has, oh my God, that's amazing for precision tasks under danger or stress. But low cortisol activation also equals boring, flat, kind of disconnected in everyday human interaction. So, what looks like superhuman confidence in one context can also be emotional absence and flatness in the other. And that is the trade off with him. And that is why women were so upset because they didn't feel that that was worth a worthy trade off. They were like yelling at the TV, including myself, screaming at the girlfriend in Free Solo, going, oh my God, run, get out of this relationship. This guy's terrible. Until you realize it's actually just like his wiring. So, his achievements, by the way, not up for debate, so let's get crystal clear about that because before anyone gets defensive, him free soloing El Capitan was historic. It was a once in a generation feat, uh, practically bordering on mythological. I mean, this was not bravery, it was total nervous system mastery. Uh, I am blown away by his level of discipline, his preparation, his level of focus, and it deserves incredible respect and does, and that is why he is admired. But here's where we go wrong culturally sometimes because we assume that because someone is elite in one domain, that they might also be aspirational everywhere else, and that's kind of the trap. Because Alex has task confidence, but not life confidence. And how do I know that? Because he's talked about it, and this is the part people find really surprising. He has said more than once that the thing that makes him most uncomfortable, even anxious, is social interaction. It's not cliffs, it's not exposure to death, it's people. He talks specifically about, public speaking, interviews, social expectations, and more importantly, these are the things I think people really saw in Free Solo was he has trouble navigating emotional nuance and he's, worried about saying the wrong thing. And so the thing is that, he's described himself, right? Socially awkward or uncomfortable in crowds or more stressed by social situations than physical danger. And that tracks perfectly because social situations are ambiguous, they're unscripted, they're impossible to rehearse, right? You can't map it out. And they also come emotionally loaded sometimes. There's not a fixed route with a social situation. There's no memorized sequence. And there's no like reliable, like right move. And that's the kind of environment Alex's brain does not like. He does not prefer. So he's got this low fear response to physical danger, but like a higher discomfort around social uncertainty. And so if we were going to really just boil it down, he's calm when variables are fixed, right? And he's completely uneasy when the variables are human. I mean, if you think about it, like a rock face doesn't change its fucking mood, but people do. Do you know what I mean? So, and I'll talk a little bit later about what his wife has had to say about it. But when his wife talks about explaining social cues to him, it's not like she's parenting him. She's translating a system that doesn't automatically light up for him. And this is what makes people go, oh, he's emotionally vacant, he's uncaring, or he's secretly cruel. Do you know what I mean? What it really means is that emotional intuition is just definitely not his strength. And relationships for him require explicit negotiation. He's not intuitive. We'll talk about that. And his partner, or his wife now, has to carry more of that interpretive load. Do you know what I mean? And so confidence is contextual, right? And pretending otherwise is how people end up worshiping the wrong traits in someone. By the way, I'm not saying she married him because she worshiped the wrong traits. She chose him and knows everything about him and accepts him for who he is. It's just that this guy has mastered granite, but he can't do fucking brunch. And I want to talk about his level of calmness because his level of calmness really makes people feel unsettled. And probably because it's not a calm that comes across as like grounded or present or even emotionally regulated. It's a calm that feels very underreactive. And when you're watching him in free solo and in interviews, there are moments when you just want to like yell at the TV and go, Alex, fucking blink if you're feeling anything. Are you there? Because Alex doesn't escalate emotionally. He doesn't mirror energy and he doesn't like perform concern to make someone feel comfortable. Like calmness is a strength, but when calm becomes like a void or absence, you feel it. And we feel it because we use emotion as information. And so when someone's not giving you reaction or urgency or like any kind of emotional signal, your nervous system is like, am I alone here? Like I feel really fucking alone. And that's not judgment, that's just biology. So something that can look like confidence could actually be low emotional activation. Um, confidence is usually staying engaged when emotion shows up, not bypassing it. And it's not that he's even bypassing it, it's like he doesn't even exude it. The other just strange thing about him, interesting thing is he has an efficiency like personality. Everything about this guy is like optimized. His words are minimized. His reactions are minimized, and like even he's a minimalist. Even his like possessions are sort of minimized, and definitely emotional output. Alex is the kind of guy, and this is why. So Alex is the kind of guy where normally if you ask a question to a friend that's sort of multi-tiered or deeper, a question that might invite someone to respond with like story and nuance, you're not going to get that from Alex, right? You're going to get like facts or a couple word answer, and then you're kind of sitting there and you're going, well, what the fuck? Like this isn't fun. This could have been a spreadsheet. I didn't need to have this conversation. And that's because, and this is why it bothers everyone when they watch this guy, it's because fun conversation requires, like exaggeration and some detours and, like even maybe playful inventions and, improvisation and sub references and like emotional color. And like Alex doesn't do any of this stuff. So when you are listening to him or watching him in free solo, it just feels so empty. And that doesn't make him broken. It just makes him like highly specialized. Efficiency can definitely read as confidence when we're talking about like achievement spaces. But when you're talking about social situations, confidence is pretty inefficient and messy and expressive. The other thing too, and then we're going to get into what is some of the things is that they both said, but his wife. We need to talk about relationships without intuition. And that's where a lot of the discomfort watching Alex comes from because he seems cruel. He seems like a total dickhead. And so you're like yelling at her going, "Oh my god, fucking run. If you're competing with a mountain, he doesn't give a shit about you. Get out of here. He doesn't care about you." That's what it felt like when you were watching it. The thing is that Alex isn't cruel. It's just totally unsettling because nothing about this guy is intuitive at all. Like, for example, there's so many things you and I do automatically. Like you check in with others, anticipate you can anticipate like the emotional impact of something on someone, or you can anticipate an emotional response. You you would offer reassurance to someone. Um, you would you definitely would like soften the delivery of certain news, like even if you had to fire someone or if you had to tell someone that someone died. But for Alex, the things that I just mentioned that are instinctual to most people, they are instructions for him. Like he's not sensing stuff, he's responding to input. So it's more like, oh, this person just informed me that this matters to them. So now I'm going to adjust my behavior. Now, here's the thing that can work. But my god, that's not romantic, holy shit. I mean, right? I mean, that's why people really had strong reactions towards their relationship. Um, because romance relies on intuitive anticipation, not, like, compliance to input you've received that you wrote down as moves you're gonna make. And again, that's why a lot of people, like, really got upset. So let's just this is what his wife has had to say about it, alright? She's talked, openly in interviews about the fact that a lot of social and emotional behaviors are not intuitive for him. And so, what does that look like in practice in their lives? She has said that she has had to explicitly tell him when things matter emotionally. And she's also had to spell out like why a response is needed. It's not like he doesn't respond because he's being an asshole. He just doesn't have that natural like, oh yeah, now's the time where you say something. And she's also described moments where she says things like to him, she'll say, "This is a moment when reassurance is expected," or "Hey, this is when most people would check in." You know what I mean? It's things that feel obvious to her, but not to him. And she doesn't frame this as cruelty or indifference. She frames it as different wiring. He's not refusing to respond. He's just missing that automated signal that tells people, yeah, now. So basically, instead of intuition and then a response as the process, his process is like information, instruction, adjustment. Now, is that workable? It obviously is. They're married, sure, but it's effortful. And that's why so many people feel unsettled watching their dynamic because not because it's abusive or wrong, but because the emotional labor is just like so uneven and it's so different. Look, some people want emotional fluency and spontaneity and like mutual vibes and alignment, and other people want more predictability, honesty, and no emotional games. Now, I would say, well, of course, you can have all of that. And you should want all of that. Those are all positive things. But Alex is really just one of those. He's just the latter. That's really all he does over here. He's predictable. He's honest. He doesn't even have the ability to play emotional games. But relational confidence isn't just like a calm, neutral situation, it's a responsive thing. You know what I mean? It's like confidence means staying emotionally available, but it, well, it doesn't just mean staying emotionally available. It's about also being emotionally steady. And Alex is only emotionally steady, and people saw that lack of emotional availability, which bothered them, and that's why everyone was screaming at the TV during Free Solo. Maybe you too. It's kind of like instruction it's kind of like romance by instruction manual, right? It's like nothing says passion like, "Input received, I will deliver flower," like, you know what I mean? And that feels robotic, and it feels wrong to a lot of people. But I also wanna talk about why this could work for some people. It did for his wife, she married him, and, look, dismissing Alex Honnold and his personality traits would be pretty lazy because for some people, this personality could be a real feature. And I know some of you are like, "Yeah, really? How?" That's believe me, it was hard for me to even come up with some of these, but no, really, there's a lot of benefits to his personality. 0 manipulation. Just can't do it. 0 emotional volatility. You want calm, smooth, and collected? You got it. Brutally honest. And it may not be delivered in the nicest or best tone, but you're going to get the truth. And Alex is also the kind of guy where you're going to get consistency, predictability. And the number one thing you're definitely not going to get is drama. You're not going to get any fucking drama with this guy, right? So if you grew up around chaos or had really chaotic relationships, someone like Alex could feel deeply safe, right? And even if you didn't have that experience of chaotic stuff, but maybe you just really value independence or like a lot of autonomy. Or maybe you're just like, I need a direct communicator. So then a partner like Alex could be very grounding if that's what you're looking for. Because Alex is not unpredictable. He's not performative and he's not emotionally strategic. And you're like, what you see is what you get with this guy. You know what I mean? So, for some nervous systems, confidence feels like self containment, not an emotional exchange. And that doesn't make it superior, it just makes it specific, right? He's emotionally stable, but to me, it's like a fucking filing cabinet, emotionally stable. Like, I don't like it's tough. Um, let's talk about why people defend him so hard. I kind of get this. I don't, people admire him. A lot of athletes admire him, and just people admire him. But I think they kind of project onto him a little bit of a fantasy that he represents. And I think that fantasy is, if I were less emotional and had less fear, life would be easier. And yeah, maybe. But it might also be quieter, flatter, and less connected with others. You know what I'm saying? And so, in my view, anyway, this is my personal thing, is just, calmness and peace without connection is just a very lonely silence to me. And that's why, like, right, I can't deal with that guy. But you know what? Someone loved him and had 2 children with him, and there is someone for everyone, even the most polarizing, conflicting guy who, you know, uh, 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 again, he's really, really, really polarizing. So let's not mistake emotional minimalism for enlightenment. Those aren't the same things. Like, I can see emotional flatness getting mislabeled as confidence because it looks kind of unshakable. But confidence is the ability to stay present with emotion, not avoid it. And it's not that he's even avoiding it, it's like he doesn't have certain abilities of expression. So, you know, is the person you're hanging out with enlightened or just emotionally on mute? I've met those people. But I think if we get to one of the hearts of the conundrum, it's this. It's really not about Alex. I think it's like I will always respect the feat. I'll watch all of his documentaries, all of that kind of stuff. I think we confuse excellence in one area with a wholeness. I think we confuse admiration for someone with like compatibility with that person. You know, you can really think someone's incredible, but confidence is also knowing what doesn't work for you even when something looks impressive on paper. And look, hanging off a cliff, doing what he does, totally impressive. But you know what? Surviving life with humans, friendships, dinner parties, careers, you know, that connection, that's a different skill set. It's a totally different thing. And I think also people were not totally unsettled because of Alex. I think it was because his relationship and watching his relationship in Free Solo forced a question on most of us that people want to avoid, which is what would I put up with in order to get what I want from another human being? Because every relationship has a cost. Sometimes it's too high. So, are you brave enough to name the cost and what you're willing to pay for what you want? Take a look at that. What trade offs are you willing to live with? In a partner, friend, boss, parent, coworker, roommate, I don't care. The cost is too high. Maybe you need to evaluate it. And it just really goes to show us, observing Alex and his wife, it's a cost you are not willing to pay for is absolutely perfect for someone else. Now, I would never in a million years even hang out or ever date a guy like Alex Honnold, but he found his perfect person, and maybe she found her perfect person in him and her acceptance of his natural, unique wiring. And I'll love to hate him forever. And I don't mean that in a mean spirited way, right? I just mean like he's kind of, it's like watching a unique personality train wreck that you can't help but watch, and also at the same time completely impressed by what that personality enables him to do physically. He is he is just really something else. Anyway, if you if you have not seen Free Solo, please see it. It is really interesting. And I don't know, I watched the live climb up the skyscraper thing on Netflix, and I gotta tell you, I don't know that, like, the levels of cortisol that were surging through my body while I was watching that was probably unhealthy. And the messed up thing about it is that I'm watching him climb a skyscraper. Our cortisol is going through the roof, and his is like not even activated. Like, just not even activated. He's a fascinating guy. Anyway, uh, I hope some of the reflections about Alex Honnold have sparked some inquiries into your life and relationships that you have. And let me know, did you see Free Solo, and is he also the guy you love to hate? Um, Definitely send me a message. Let me know. All right, I'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this show, I would so appreciate you leaving a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about partner discounts on amazing products, visit lrus.com/discounts.